If people who aren't Catholic can be saved, then what's the point of apologetics or evangelization or anything? That's one of the objections that I think I hear a lot, and also is one of the objections to the hoping that everybody gets into heaven, right? And that's a whole different issue. I did a whole video on it. But what is the point of evangelizing and stuff? If everybody can get to heaven anyway, whether or not they're Catholic, they could get to heaven. So why should we evangelize? It seems like a lot of work. I think this is a very Western way of looking at things, because we're always asking in our very logical Roman mindsets in the West, well, what's the bare minimum for a thing to be a thing, right? So what do I mean by that? Well, an example is the Mass. A big thing in the West is what's the bare minimum for the Mass to be, for the transubstantiation to happen, for that miracle to happen? What's the bare minimum? In the East, they're like, just do the whole divine liturgy the way it's supposed to be done. But in the West, we're like, what's the bare minimum? And what does that lead to? It leads to lots of good things, because we know when Jesus is more present, has become into the species. But it also leads to bad things like clown masses that are technically valid, but we forget that if we celebrate a Mass pretty badly, a lot of the grace God meant for us isn't going to come to us. So what does this mean for evangelization? Well, asking what's the point of evangelizing and apologetics and spreading the gospel if people can be saved anyway is a kind of like in a marriage asking, if my wife's not going to divorce me, why should I be loving to her anyway? So it's a really twisted way of thinking. So I think an antidote to this is comes to us from a Western thinker. I think this is a Western problem, and I think the antidote comes from a Western writer. St. Ambrose says in his treatise where he's looking at the letter to the Philippians, he says, "The apostle therefore says, again I say rejoice." He urges us to find ever-increasing joy in God and in keeping his commandments. The more we try in this world to give ourselves completely to God our Lord, by obeying his commands, the greater will be our happiness in the life to come, and the greater the glory that will be ours in the presence of God. Right? So it's not just about the minimum. Our heart has more room for love, and so our happiness and glory in heaven will be bigger the more we can obey God, the closer we can be to him. So we want to share that with everybody so everybody's joy can be increased. It's not just about getting your foot in the door. It's about having as much room as possible for God in your heart and in your life.